All right, so today we're going to begin talking about surface area, focusing on prisms and cylinders. So to find the surface area of an object, we add up all of the areas on the surface of that object. So a prism is a solid with two bases that are congruent and parallel. So if I look at this first shape here, let's see if I can zoom out. Okay, this shape here is a prism. It is a closed figure. I have a base that is parallel and congruent. Okay, this one here. Is a prism. Okay, the opposite sides that are congruent here are two triangles. Okay, so the triangles would be considered our bases, even if it's sitting on its side. Okay, the triangles are still the bases because those are the parallel sides that are congruent. And then it's made up of three other sides that are rectangles. Not necessarily congruent. For this one, they are though. Okay, if I look at this one here, okay, this would be called a pyramid. The difference here, yes, it has a triangle on the bottom, however, it comes to a point. So that makes it a pyramid. So we'll learn more about these next class. So if I'm finding the surface area of a prism, I'm going to find the surface area of all of the sides and add them together. Pretty straightforward. All right, for a cylinder, slightly different. So for a cylinder, looks something like this. I can open it up. Look, that's the net. That's what it's called. All right, so to find the surface area here, we'd find the surface area of the bases. The top and bottom are circles. So what's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. So the formula is area of the rectangle, we'll get to that, plus the area of both circles. So pi r squared, and there's two of them, so 2 pi r squared. All right, so now for the rectangle, if we think about this rectangle here, the area of a rectangle is length times width, or base times height. So the base would be all of this, and the height here. Okay, the height is typically given to us, but we're not typically given the whole length of this spread out. But we can think about it curling around the circle. And what's it creating? The circumference of the circle. So it's curling around the circle and creating the circumference. So the length of our rectangle is actually the circumference of the circle. So instead of base times height, we're going to say the circumference times the height. What's circumference? 2 pi r. So there's your formula. 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. So you need two things. You need r and you need height. So let's go ahead and classify these next items as a prism or a cylinder. Okay, this first one is a prism. What kind of prism? It's made up of rectangles. So rectangular prism. Next one, cylinder. Next one is a prism, which two sides are parallel. Okay, this side here is a trapezoid and it's parallel to this side here. So this is a trapezoidal prism. And the last one, okay, which two sides are parallel? The top and the bottom here, and those are bases. So this would be a, and those are pentagons, so this would be a pentagonal prism. All right, let's go ahead and find the area of these shapes. As we're going through finding the surface area, we're thinking, if I was to wrap this entire thing with wrapping paper or with carpet, how much would I need? So we're finding the area of the whole outside. It's important to be able to label your work so you know that you've used all of the sides. If we count the sides here, we've got the front, the back, 1, 2, and then this side 3, this one 4, and the bottom 5. So we should have 5 total sides. which sides are congruent and parallel. That will tell us the bases. And this triangle here is the same as this triangle back here. So we can say the bases are triangles, and there are two of them. So to find the area of a triangle, it's 1/2 base times height. So the height is 4.1. The base is where the height meets a side at a right angle, so here. If this one's 12, this one's 12. And there are two of those. Plug that into your calculator, you should get 49.2. Now for my rectangles. I have this bottom rectangle. As I'm working these out and showing my work, I'm not just going to start writing like 12 times, whatever. I'm going to label what I'm finding. So if this side up here is 3, that means this is 3, and this is 3. So my bottom rectangle is 12 by 3. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So 12 times 3, 36. Now this small rectangle here is 5 by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Oops. And this larger side, it is a 10 by 3. So 10 times 3 equals 30. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. And we said we had 5, so we're done. Now to find the surface area, we're going to take all of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, measurements, and add them. So surface area is me adding those things together. So 130.2 kilometers squared. Number 2, which sides are parallel and congruent? These two sides here, this trapezoid and this trapezoid back here, are parallel and congruent. So the bases are trapezoids. There's two of them. So the area for a trapezoid is 1/2 times the height times the legs added together, or the bases added together. So in this trapezoid here, the height is 12 and this is the base. So the height is 12. One of the bases is 23. The other base is up here, 18. And there's two of those. If you plug that whole thing into your calculator, making sure you put 23 plus 18 in parentheses, you should get 492. Now for our rectangles. So if we think about how many sides we have the trapezoids, and then 1, top 2, 3, 4. So 6 altogether. 4 rectangles, 2 trapezoids. Let's start with our rectangles. I'll start with this 20 by 15 one on the side. So 20 by 15, 20 times 15, 300. I'll work myself clockwise all the way around here. So now we'll do the bottom. So that was 23 by 15. So 23 times 15. 345. And this side here, well, if this is 15, I need to know what this side is. So let's work around. Or sorry, this is 12. This is 15, this one's 15, 15. So this rectangle over here is 12 by 15. So 12 times 15, 180. And lastly, the top of our trapezoidal prism would be 15 by 18. Which is 270. The surface area of the entire shape would be adding up all of these measurements. And I got 1,587 feet squared. All right, the next one here, we have a cylinder. So we're going to have our circles, and then the rectangular round. Let's start with the circles. So the circle area, and there's two of those. So the area of a circle is pi r squared. So this would be 2 pi r squared. So what is r? 11 squared. Now we're going to keep this in terms of pi to start out with because we only want to round once if possible. So if I leave this in terms of pi and my next one in terms of pi, then I can add those together and then multiply by pi at the very end. So in your calculator, do 2 times 11 squared. You get 242 pi. Now for a round, so the rectangle, it would be the circumference. So if I'm thinking about it again, circumference times the height. Circumference is 2 pi r times the height. So base times height, circumference times height. So 2 times pi times radius, it's 11, times the height, which is the distance between the two circles, 26. Plug that into your calculator. 2 times 11 times 26. You should get 572 pi. Now we're going to take these two, add them together. 242 pi plus 572 pi equals 814 pi. Now finally, I'm going to plug in my calculator. 814 times pi, and I will round to the nearest tenth. 2,557.3 yards squared. Okay, this would be the most accurate answer. If we had rounded this number and then rounded this number and then added them and possibly had to round again, it would be a little bit less accurate. Probably still close, but less accurate. Okay. Next slide, let's start with composite shapes. To find the surface area of each composite shape, find the surface area of each composite shape. Keep in mind, the unexposed faces are not included in the surface area, so you may need to subtract them from the total. Sometimes you can just not include them when you're in your addition, but sometimes you'll have to subtract them out. So for this first one, which face is not included? We have a trapezoidal prism on top of a rectangular prism. So we would not include this rectangle that is sandwiched between the two. So the 17, this one's 17 by 13. 1, 17, or 13 would not be included. Oops, forgot my N. There we go. So let's go ahead and start from the top down with the trapezoidal prism. I like to start with my bases. So 2 trapezoids. It's 1/2. Height. Let's see here. If the entire height's 22 and the height of the rectangle is 8, then the height from here to here would be 22 minus 8, so 14. So the height of my trapezoid is 14. Times the bases added together. So if this is 6, then this is 6. This piece here, 17, so 17. So this will be 17. So 6 plus 17. And there's 2 of those, so times 2. Plug that in, you should get 322. Now for the sides of my trapezoidal prism. I've got the top there. The top is 6 by 13, so this is going to be 13. So 6 times 13, 78. Now the 2 sides of my trapezoidal prism are here and over here. This one here, if this is 15, then this one's 15. States here that they are congruent with these little marks, which tells us that both of these sides are congruent. So for my sides here, I have a 13 by 15, and I have 2 of those. So that's how I'm going to kind of mark that. So 13 by 15 and 2 of those. It's 390. I'm not including the bottom of the trapezoidal prism, so now let's go to the rectangular prism. Let's get the very bottom first. So 17 by 13. $221. Let's do the sides. So this side here, 8 by 13, has an identical match. So 8 by 13 and 2 of those. 208. And the one facing us, 8 by 17, is congruent to the back. So 2 of those. So 8 times 17 times 2, 272. So we've got all the sides. We could go back and add them up if we want to. So 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sides. You could add up all the sides of your shape. Now for the surface area, we'll be adding up every single one of these together. We should get 1,491 centimeters squared. Okay, last one. Let's think about this shape. We have a cylinder on the bottom with another cylinder right on top of it. So what's not included? When we're calculating the small cylinder, we won't include the bottom circle. However, when we calculate the big cylinder, we'll still have to calculate the top circle because we have to include this. We'll just have to then subtract out this circle. So what's not included? The bottom circle of small cylinder. So let's begin. In order to find the surface area of a cylinder, I need the height and I need the radius. Do I have those? So if I look at my large cylinder, I know the whole thing is 38. That means the radius is half 38, 19. All right. And I know the height of my big cylinder is 14. If the height of the whole thing is 23, that means the height of my small cylinder is 23 minus 14, 9. All right, so now for the radius of the circle, or this small cylinder. If the entire width is 38, this width here is 13 and 13. 38 minus 13 minus 13 is 12, so that means the diameter is 12, so half of that radius is 6. So let's begin finding the surface area of the top cylinder. So for the small cylinder, let's abbreviate with this little sketch. Small cylinder, we'll do the rectangle plus the circle. So only one of them though. So the rectangle would be base times height. So then base is circumference, so 2 pi r times height, plus the circle, only one of them, so pi r squared. And let's plug in what we know. Our radius is 6, so 2 pi 6 times the height of 9. plus pi 6 squared. 2 times 6 times 9 is 108 pi plus 36 pi equals 144 pi. So this is the small cylinder. Now let's find the big cylinder. So for the big cylinder, we'll have to do around the rectangle plus the 2 circle bases, and then we'll have to take away the small circle bottom. So the small cylinder, circle bottom. All right, so for the big one, around the rectangle would be circumference times height. So 2 pi r times height plus the 2 big circles, so plus 2 area of a circle is pi r squared minus small circle, or small cylinder, circle bottom, pi r squared. So our big cylinder. The radius of our big cylinder is 19. The height is 14. So 2 pi 19 times 14 plus 2 pi radius squared, so 19 squared. Taking away our small cylinder, what's our radius of our small cylinder? 6. So pi 6 squared. Now let's plug into our calculator. 2 times 19 times 14 is 532 pi. Plus 2 times 19 squared, 722 pi. Minus 6 squared is 36, and we'll leave the pi. Now if we simplify across, it'll be something pi. So we'll do 532 plus 722 minus 36, 1,218 pi. So this is the small cylinder without the bottom. This is the big cylinder taking away what's not showing on the bottom here. So now I can add these two together. So 144 pi plus 1,218 pi, and that equals 1,362 pi. Surface area would be me now multiplying by pi. Should get 4,278.8 millimeters squared.